Life after Big Ben starts with the Mitchell Trubisky era with the Pittsburgh Steelers. They've added pieces to the line. They're one of the best drafting teams in the NFL, but who's that one missing piece that can tie that line together? ESPN Radio's The Sportsocracy will tell you next.
It's a new era in Pittsburgh. New quarterback, lots of savings. Low prices love the savings. We are in the Ingles studio. I'm Tank Spitzer. He's Jeremy Greene. And yeah, it's like the Pittsburgh Steelers took the Ingles mantra into this free agency period and just went value, 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 value.
And they've done quite a nice job of it.
Oh, I agree. But, of course, the number one move that everybody looks at is the quarterback, Mitch Trubisky. It's time for a new era there in Pittsburgh. How are they going to add to it? This is the post-free agency mock draft. And number one, at number 20 overall, Tyler Linderbaum, the center out of Iowa.
And I'm sure somebody's going to say, but they signed Mason Cole, who also plays guard. Tyler Linderbaum falls to them at 20. I don't see how they can pass it up.
Mm-mm.
I mean, you had Pouncey for a lot of years, so this is a franchise that values that position higher than most. Tyler Linderbaum's too good to be here. I have him as my fifth best player in this draft, but he plays center. And there's a lot of teams that will bypass him, the Baltimore Ravens, your biggest rival being one of them. And to me, this is a quarterback like Mitch Trubisky's best friend because this takes a lot of pressure off of him. Tyler Linderbaum is – if you're a football diehard, he is your kind of football player. Really smart. There was a play against Kentucky in the, I think it was the Outback Bowl. 35-yard downfield run at the goal line. Tyler Linderbaum just demolishes a defender.
Yep.
That's who he is.
35 yards down the field.
He's the best center I've ever graded, and it's not all that close. This is a 15-year starter at the position. You have 22 starters, 11 on offense, 11 on defense. You can pin this one in for the next 15 years. He's very much a Steeler kind of player, and I think would be a home run for them at 20.
In the second round, they have the 52nd overall pick, and it's Drake Jackson, the edge rusher out of USC. You and I both love this guy.
I am drunk on this kid, and I'll be honest with you, I think this might be my favorite pick of the draft. I'm not down on Alex Highsmith. He was fine. You put Drake Jackson on the other end of TJ Watt and just sit back and watch what happens.
Mm-hmm.
To me, he's more talented than Bud Dupree was. And I loved Bud Dupree. This is just one of those things that you, with the line coming back together with Tuitt and Alu and Hayward, you have that fifth rusher, and Drake Jackson's one of those. He's so raw, which is unsettling, but I revert back to USC. Played almost 1,400 snaps in college, and I still think he's raw. Weird. I say that about Tennessee, USC, a slew of other schools. I firmly believe if he had played anywhere else, he'd have been a top 20 pick in this draft.
Mm-hmm.
And a smart team is going to draft him, have just a little bit of patience, ask him to be borderline a situational pass rusher to begin with, and it'll be just fine. He's not bad against the run. He just over-pursues from time to time. I think he can be a three-down guy off the jump. And I look at Pittsburgh and go, yeah, you're the kind of team that does that.
And you stand him up?
Yeah, and I think you can. I mean, he ran a 4.5 at 6'4", 250.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really think you could ask for more than that. Now, he's going to have to learn the position, but he doesn't have that many bad habits, and I think he's nimble enough to stand up.
At the third round, 84 overall, what did the Pittsburgh Steelers do? Just about better than anybody. Find a wide receiver that they are going to use and use often. And they're going to get one in Justyn Ross, wide receiver from Quentin.
There are very few players a month out that you know definitively a team really likes.
Mm-hmm.
I know definitively the Pittsburgh Steelers like Justyn Ross. They see him as the replacement to James Washington. If you hit on him, phenomenal. Because this kid would have been a top 15 pick before he injured his neck. Now, after the missed year with the spinal injury, he didn't look the same.
No.
I look at that in a very simple way of he also didn't have Trevor Lawrence throwing to him. There was a big-ass drop-off in talent and quarterback play at Clemson last year, and I think that played a lot into it. 6'4", 205, not a burner. This is a hands catcher of the football. This is a guy that you can put on the other end. He does basically take Chase Claypool and do the exact opposite of everything he does. Not crazy athletic. He's just really physical. I think having him in the same offense as a Pat Freiermuth, this takes some of the heat off him because he's very difficult to defend one-on-one. There's just not a lot of corners that can deal with a guy that has hands this strong, can deal with press the way that he can, and is this big-bodied. I know Pittsburgh likes him. I know they like him. I know they like him. This is not a me guessing.
Right.
I know it.
Right.
This might be a little high to me, but I know definitively he won't be there at 138. And this is one of those that I'm not going to say I would bet my house on it. I have a really strange feeling that Justyn Ross finds a way into Pittsburgh.
There were a lot of dropsy issues his last season at Clemson. Did it have a lot to do with the quarterback play, or did it have a lot to do with the fact that he was just trying to get used to being back in the game? Maybe he was a little...
I think it's more rust.
Yeah.
I think it was more rust than it was anything.
I was going to say maybe he's a little timid at first getting back on the field, and now that he's had several games back in the game, then he's ready to roll to the pros.
I think there were some frustration issues with him last year too. Mm-hmm. Came back into the offense expected to be the no doubt one, and he just wasn't. And he never developed that rapport with Aqeel the way he did with Trevor Lawrence. I think he can be one of the steals of the draft. I know he's not fast. I don't really care. So physical.
Compensatory pick at 138 overall. Back into the fourth round. Tariq Castro-Fields, cornerback out of Penn State.
This is probably the best run support corner in this draft. Is he an elite man-to-man cover guy? No. But he plays zone pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
And he can come up and absolutely lay the pipe. I see this as a blitzer, nickel back to begin with. It can play on the outside. He was bigger than I thought, to be really honest with you. I knew about how tall he was, but I was expecting him to come in really thin. He's also ridiculously fast. He's a little raw. And there are times that he will get pushed out with the bathwater against very physical run teams. I could say that about every corner I've ever graded in my life because they're coming up against guys that are 100 pounds bigger than them. He's so fast that there are not a lot of pulling guards that can get out in front of him, and that's what he did at Penn State. The knock on him will be, look how much talent was on that Penn State team. Look how many opportunities he got to stop the run. I don't care. It obviously has some technique issues as a cover guy, but you hide him in that zone-heavy Pittsburgh Steelers defense, and I think he'll be just fine.
In the sixth round, 208 overall, Pittsburgh Steelers in the 2022 post-free agency mock draft here in the Sportsocracy. Quentin Lake, safety out of UCLA.
Yeah, they did this one time before. They took a safety with the last name Lake out of UCLA, and it was his father, Cardinal Lake, who they kind of remind me of each other. The biggest thing about him, he's going to have to get stronger because he wants to play big, mean, physical. Well, the only problem is that he's not built that way. He's 6'1", 200 pounds. I would like to see him play 215, really work on the body the first year in the league, and I do think eventually he could be a starting strong safety in this league. I think he pairs nicely with Minkah Fitzpatrick. Was I being a little homer because it's Cardinal Lake's kid?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was. But I do think he fits that scheme. He fits that team. And I think he would be a nice acquisition in the sixth round. It's a good value. Real smart kid.
So in the seventh round at 225 overall, go with another NFL legacy pick, and Derrick Deese Jr., the tight end out of San Jose State.
I think he's a nice tandem with Pat Freiermuth. I think this kid can be a much better blocker than he was at San Jose State, and I think it's because they didn't ask him to. That offense is different than what you're going to do in the NFL. And a lot of times on tape, you have to watch to see, does a guy not do something? Can he not do it? Or was he not asked to do it? And that's where I fall in with Derrick Deese.
Okay.
I think he can come in and be a good blocking tight end immediately. A 2. Is he ever going to be a great receiver? I'm going to say no. He doesn't have wonderful hands. He's a good route runner. Very short area burst, very hyper athletic. I think he's a much better blocker than other people do. The technique was incredibly solid. This one has to do it a lot. This is a Steelers-type pick to me. Of you're the tandem with Freiermuth in those run-heavy sets, and he's so damn athletic. I could see him being an H-back in this league, even though he's 6'4", 240.
Mm-hmm.
Ran slower than I thought he would. He plays faster than he ran.
At 241 overall, second pick in the 7th round for the Pittsburgh Steelers. They ended out with Aqeel Glass, the quarterback out of Alabama A&M.
I don't buy Mason Rudolph at all. And I don't think the Pittsburgh Steelers do either.
No one does.
I don't buy Dwayne Haskins at all, and I don't think anybody else does.
Mm-hmm.
Aqeel Glass will probably never be a starter in this league, but I think he'd be a good backup. I also think he has a role. I was a little surprised that he wasn't faster than he was. He was almost 5 seconds in the 40 because he plays like Cam Newton.
Mm-hmm.
That's what he's always reminded me of. 6'5", 215, got a good, not great arm. Everything with him is good, not great. It's very raw tools, and this is just the hope is he'll be a long-term backup. But you look at, especially with the first 2 years of Trubisky. Trubisky's a smart kid. Nobody ever talks about that because they always talk about the athletic ability. Mm-hmm. He's a really smart kid. And I think you put Aqeel Glass in the same room with him, and you teach him how to play quarterback. Level of competition is obviously going to be a problem, but he really showed out on tape. And you just don't see many 6'5", 215-pound quarterbacks that can spin it like he does. He's one of my favorite quarterbacks. And look, I don't like many quarterbacks in this class. Back into the draft, every year I've ever done this, I think the fewest quarterbacks I've ever seen go in a draft was 11. They're going to go somewhere. Mm-hmm. I've had Aqeel Glass penciled into Pittsburgh, I think since we started doing this, because he fits that culture. And he fits that team, and he kind of reminds me of Ben a little bit, to be really honest with you. Just a big, tough kid that, you're going to have to work with him. You're going to have to be patient with him. He probably doesn't put on a uniform his first year in the league. But I think if you're patient with him, you might be pleasantly surprised with what comes out on the backside.
The Sportsocracy 2022 postseason NFL mock draft. Pittsburgh Steelers get a haul here with Tyler Linderbaum at the top, Drake Jackson, Justyn Ross as the first 3 picks. That's enough for me.
It's a great class. Add 2 of my favorite players and Justyn Ross that I think they could get a lot out of.
I'm Tank Spencer. He's Jeremy Greene. We are in the Ingles studio, and we will see you next time.